Good evening, everyone, and a very warm welcome from 1,000 Hills, a country called Rwanda. I hope many on the screen knows that country. My name is Ganza More Robert, and I am the Conservation Agriculture Lead at ShareScreen Africa. I am joined here by my colleague, Diane Mumarungu, who is a coordinator at ShareScreen Africa as well. And together, we're very excited to be a host this evening. To start, we'd love to connect. So if you could please go into the chat box and let us know where you're joining us from tonight. And now a huge welcome to Cultivate Africa. This has been your virtual talk series designed to create a vibrant Pan-African community for everyone passionate about agriculture. Our mission is very simple. We want to bring together farmers, agronomists, researchers, students, lecturers, and anyone else who is passionate about sustainable farming to share their knowledge, discuss pressing challenges, and explore the innovative opportunities shaping our continent's soil-friendly farming. Now, to give you a little background about who we are ShareScreen Africa, a knowledge-sharing platform built for African classrooms. ShareScreen Africa bridges the gap between experts and conservation communities. It provides open and free access to critical conservation expertise through virtual workshops and lectures. We are leading the African conservation conversations towards homegrown solutions. And now tonight, we are honored to be with two brilliant speakers, both who are versed in the field of agriculture communications. We are honored to welcome Ms. Ruth Mukiri, who is a technical training and research manager and principal of the College of Sustainable Agriculture for East Africa. She leads training and research initiatives that equip young professionals and farming communities with practical skills in sustainable ecological agriculture. We are also honored to have with us Mr. Jean-Claude Niyomugabo, who is a master's student at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, the College of Engineering. Jean-Claude is a Rwandan agriculture communicator, social entrepreneur, and digital strategist, best known for using digital media, social medias, to make agriculture more accessible and engaging, also attractive, especially to young people. We're going to have a discussion with both of them on the power of storytelling in agriculture communications. But before we hear from our speakers, we have a few housekeeping notes. We will begin with a conversation between Diane, my colleague, and both speakers, which will be followed by an extended Q&A session. And we encourage everyone to engage through chat and start preparing your questions for discussion later on. And now please join me in giving our speakers a very warm virtual welcome. And Diane, if you may please take on the conversation.
Thank you so much, and I want to thank our audience for participating in giving the virtual warm welcome to our guest speakers. And it is my absolute pleasure to be part of the team that is going to be moderating our conversation, which is really very interesting communication. I know every day, today we communicate, but today we are going to be focusing on the sector of agriculture. And agriculture is often associated with crops, livestock, and technology, as well as innovation. But behind every successful farming practices, there's something that is equally important. What allows it to be successful, it's how it has been communicated, it's how it has been transferred to the other person. Whether you're a researcher sharing the new findings of what you're working on, or whether you're an extension officer working alongside with farmers, or a young entrepreneur who is inspiring the rest of the young generation on social medias, and or a farmer passing on information from one generation to the next. Agriculture or communication keeps on evolving or allowing agriculture to evolve around it. And tonight, our conversation is going to be exploring one of the most important questions, which is about how can storytelling become one of the most powerful tools for transforming agriculture. And here, before I move on to my guest speakers, I want to invite the audience as well to also participate in the chat box and share with us how you think storytelling become one of the most powerful tools for transforming African agriculture. So as I turn to my guest speakers, today, when I was preparing for the session, I read somewhere that communication isn't simply about sharing information, but it's about building the understanding, inspiring, but also building confidence for people, helping ideas travel from research stations to farmers, from classroom to communities, but also from one generation to the next one. And tonight, like I emphasized, we are going to be exploring how storytelling can become one of the most powerful tools for transforming African agriculture. And as I turn to our guest speaker, I would love to begin to hear from both of our guest speakers. And if I may start with you, Mrs. Ruth, when you hear the term agriculture communication, what does it mean to you? Beyond its definition, how do you think, or how does effective agriculture communication look like in practice?
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Diane. Thank you very much, Robert. And indeed, here's Green Africa. Let me start by introducing myself a little bit. I know Robert has already done us justice by introducing us. I am Ruth Mukiri. I'm from Kenya. I work with an organization known as Sustainable Agriculture Community Development Program. It is an organization that was started in 1993. We are well over 30 years old. And we exist so that we can partner with farmers and communities of Africa in development. Majorly, we do that through extension services. We also do that through farmer education. We do that also through research and technical training, which is where I am domiciled. I am the manager in charge of technical training and research in a project of SACDEP known as the College of Sustainable Agriculture for Eastern Africa. We train in sustainable agriculture. The training takes about 2 years. It is examined by Kenya National Examination Council, and it is also, we have an existing curriculum. Now, to come back to your question, Diane, what does agricultural communication look like? It is after all is said and done, what has the farmer gone home with, or what has the student gone home with? You know, we talk heavy scientific bureaucratic language. At the end of the day, if you ask that particular farmer, if you ask that student, what do you go home with? What is development? They will be able to tell you in their own words what that particular thing means. It is that what brings about it is the essence of passing information and knowledge that is usable, and knowledge that, you know, as an individual, you are able to think wide and broad, you know, not to keep on wondering, what did Diane meant? What did she mean? What was she talking about? You know, it just gets to you clear, direct, concise, and to the point. So in a nutshell, communication is that what, after all has been said, what do I remain with? How do I understand that? I would put it like that as in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. I really liked your point on how that reminded us that it's how communication isn't only about delivering information, but it's also about making that information more meaningful. And as I turn to the next speaker, Jean-Claude, also there, I would like to pass on the same question. When you hear the phrase agriculture communication, what does it remind you? I know you have been agriculture influencer, and I think by now you're already a professional on that. what would you share with us? What does it mean to you?
So I wanted to share my screen so that I can share maybe some of you about myself before I answer the question. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, thank you so much. So yeah, my name is Jean-Claude Niyomugabo. So Robert said I have been
Can you
working
do
in
full Zoom? Apologies, Spike.
For
Jean-Claude?
Zoom, for Zoom.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Okay.
okay, okay, okay. So yeah, as I said, my name is Jean-Claude Niyomugabo, and thank you so much, Robert, Diane, and Ruth, and Share Screen Africa, for bringing this conversation around communication. So it's a pleasure to be here to share my experience and also learning from the experience of other people. So I have been working into communication most of the times around social media communication, and I want to share a little bit about me so that when we talk about this conversation, maybe we, get my experience as a person. So, my hometown is Gisenyi, Rwanda. So I was born and raised in Rwanda, and I was like born in western part of Rwanda, which is called the Gisenyi. You can see it's an amazing place for agriculture. Growing up, I was exposed into agriculture, working with my parents and other people, and also trying to observe what was happening in agriculture sector, and also trying to really understand how the communication was done across those community. So you can see we have a lot of mountains and a lot of agriculture activities, which means that there is a lot of communication going on for the small scale farmers out there. And so my free time activities, I like to travel. I have been traveling to 10 countries. It is because of agriculture. It is because of agriculture communication, which I will tell you after this presentation. And also my free time is, to create content, to take pictures, as well as creating caption and sharing those knowledge around the broad community of agriculture and people who are interested into agriculture, especially on the social media platforms. So I have like some of the, many followers. I have been able to generate some followers over the social media. This is X, which is formerly Twitter. So I have 139 thousand followers across that social media, and I've been working into different ways around agriculture. You can see this is hydroponic farming systems. I have been into those kind of technologies that can attract more young people to be involved in agriculture sector. And I have been also sharing some of my experience around the communities in Rwanda, and attending some of the conference, and also getting some of the award because of communication, because of social media. And also this is LinkedIn. I have around 76,000 followers on the social media. And my, background, as Robert said, I went to RICA, Rwanda Institute for Conservation Agriculture, and my major was into conservation agriculture, and I specialized in irrigation mechanization and communication. So we did a little part of communication, but I get a chance to learn more about how can we communicate around farmers and how can we make sure that farmers can get the best knowledge when it comes to communication. And after graduation from RICA, I worked for the UNFAO and Dutch NGO called Agritera for 2 years. And also I was running my youth-led agriculture startup, which is called Edgy Right. And we're focusing on eye communication and working with other young people who are interested into social media and communication, and also are interested in, digital extension services for agriculture. And then afterward, in July 2025, I came to the US to do my master's in agriculture systems technology in the Department of Biological Systems Engineering. So yeah, this is a little bit about me. And coming back to the question of agriculture communication, or maybe communication, as Ruth said, I think that communication will be more important when farmers can take the information and use them in their real life settings. For example, if the farmers can get the trainings and use them to increase the productivity of their farms. So that one is like the agricultural communication that I think is the best important. And also, as I said, as someone who has been able to grow in the rural village, sometimes we could find some of the people who would come with the information from the training and share them with other farmers, fellow farmers, so that they can use them. So I think that those are the kind of the communication that we can think about, because you can talk as many things as possible, but if the farmers are not using those information, if the farmers are not benefiting from those information, that is not ag communication that I think should be when it comes to the farmers. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you so much, Jean-Claude. And it's clearly you have emphasized that communication is much more than about building the trust, the relationship with farmers, with the audience, with the public, but most importantly, inspiring action. And I really do agree with you. You communicate to inspire the action, people to take one step. And that takes me to the great foundation of my next question, which I think I'm going to start with you, Jean-Claude, which is about if agriculture had one communication challenge that you could solve overnight, what would it be and why?
Okay. So I think that when it comes to agriculture, so we have some of the communication problems. And for me, one of the things that I can solve is around solving the gap between how agriculture experienced and how it is presented. Because when you see agriculture most of the times in Africa, we show agriculture when there's a drought, when there's a hunger, when there's,
Mm-hmm.
poverty, crop failure, and another crisis. But sometimes most of the young people didn't see like the complete pictures. So when you go for the news, we see the flood, which is happening, for example, in northern part of Rwanda, and the drought happening in eastern part of Rwanda, which is very challenging. And then most of the young people will see agriculture as that pictures. So they don't see like agriculture engineers, people designing an apps that can help agriculture to proceed, and also researchers and also professors, data scientists. We don't see those kind of information, especially on the media. So also for me, I think that when I was younger, I had that kind of experience because I used to spend much of my times with communities in rural areas, and most of the times I said, I don't want to do this kind of agriculture. Waking up in the morning and going and, preparing runs, carrying manure on our head. And, it was like very, very devastating. So for me, I said, so I need to go and do other kind of stuff to the level that I say that I maybe need to do medicine. I need to be a doctor. I need to enjoy staying in the office and enjoying the better life that office have to offer. So my perspectives changed when I joined the RICA because we get a chance to learn more about experiential learning and learn by doing. We were able to learn about food processing, animal production, crop production, which was very, very interesting for me to say that I can do some of the things around agriculture. And then also, as someone who get a chance to use like, social media, I say that, okay, this is the better ways because when you communicate the best image of agriculture, it's a better thing for the young people to get interested. So for me, as as the question said, I think the best ways is to show like the other side of agriculture, the better side of agriculture in a sense that young people and the other people can get interest, can also see the reality around agriculture, start about agriculture value chain in a way that make more sense for them. Yeah, thank you.
Mhm. And from what I got to hear from you, Jean-Claude, is that it is time for agriculture to be branded in a good way, in a quite like the other how other jobs, white collar jobs are branded, and I think it's the same that needs to be done for agriculture. And now let me turn to our guest speaker again, Ruth. How was your experience? Share with us your experience. Did you see a different challenge from what Jean-Claude just mentioned, or you agree with him?
I totally agree with John Claude. The fact that we have not made agriculture experiential is the challenge. For me, the heaviest or the best communication challenge that I can solve with agriculture, actually, there would be two. One would be the assumption that the youth do not like agriculture. That
Mm-hmm.
is a huge assumption, and it is not the truth. When you come back to the grassroots, you will find that youth engage with agriculture because from what we have known, like what John Cloud has said here, we did like agriculture when we were much younger because we saw laborers work, we saw heavy, tiresome work, carrying manure, fetching water, feeding the cows, and all that. But things are changing. There are so many industries in the value chain. And we know at the end of the day, agriculture is the one that is holding development of the world. It is agriculture, nothing but agriculture. If as human beings we are not well fed, it means we will not have the energy to go into engineering. Indeed, engineering would not exist if it were not for agriculture. Agriculture is the one that gave rise to engineering. The second assumption is that if the farmers are not implementing what we train them, and I put train them in quotes, in very heavy quotes, because we do not train them. If the farmers are not implementing what we train them, then it is because they do not understand. You have to admit, Diane, that we grew up with our parents doing subsistence farming. Leave alone now where we are doing commercial farming. Our parents did subsistence farming, and the subsistence farming paid our school fees, fed us, built houses, made life work for us. What is that we are trying now as scientists and the ones that are educated now, that we assume that the farmers don't know? In fact, all knowledge starts at the farmers who are at the ground level. Us now as scientists, as trainers, as extension officers, ours is to partner with these farmers in knowledge exchange and knowledge transfer. So those two would be the biggest misconception or the biggest communication problems that I would seek to change, that the youth do not like agriculture and that the farmers cannot absorb what has been trained to them because they don't understand it. Yes.
Thank you so much. And one thing I've understood from both the conversation from you, Jean-Claude and Ruth, is that the issue comes around how agriculture is being branded, either to the young generation, but even to the rest of the generation, the adults, even in comparison to other careers. I love what Ruth mentioned, that agriculture is the backbone of, even if you cannot be an engineer, if you don't have food to put in your plate, where would you get that energy? So but here I want, before we close the chapter of challenges, can we also emphasize on the part of who takes the action? Who is the loan for? Is it for the government? Is it for people in agriculture? Is it for the youth? We would like to say youth are the future of, are the future for tomorrow. Who should take that responsibility on changing that change, debranding it? Either Jean-Claude or Ruth, both of you can answer that.
Maybe I can go first. So for me, I think that's going to come to agriculture. So there is a lot of many challenges, as we said, and we cannot, say there is no challenge because we get a chance to grow up in the family farms where like we get those struggles. So you get some of the challenge around unpredictable weather. Today it's raining, tomorrow there's heavy sunshine, and sometimes you can grow wet and then there is no good market access. Sometimes your parents can not get a lot of money to invest, and also maybe most of the times there is no good return. And some of the African young people, the agriculture paid for their school fees to go to boarding school to university. So imagine, so it's like agriculture is like the backbone of the economy. But we
Mhm.
have like those kind of challenges. So for me, I think that we cannot deny those kind of challenges, but there is, as your question said, that who need to take action. So I think that many people need to take action because, for example, for the young people, uh, sometimes they want to go into agriculture, but they don't have enough money to invest. If you have money, you don't have skills. If you have money and skills, you don't have market. You know, it's like three things that can work together. So in that sense, I think that the government can invest a lot of money in trainings and infrastructures, and also getting access to market and finance to make sure that young people can get those interests. We don't want to bring more young people to do agriculture because agriculture is like a business. So if you treat a business, you can have a good return on investment. So we need to bring young people who can come and develop what our parents have been doing. So I think that government needs to work with the young people, public sectors and private sectors, and NGOs. In Africa, we have a lot of NGOs working on with the agriculture, but sometimes they don't work with the young people. So in our sense, in my sense, I think we need to bring those different stakeholders to work together to make sure that we can have a successful young people who can be a role model to other people, to other young people, so that we can change those narratives around agriculture.
Mm. Mhm. Robert, you can come in.
Yes, Diane. Sorry, Ruth. I just have a small question in regards to what you mentioned before this question. And this question is directed to Jean-Claude. My question is, Ruth mentioned the element of local smallholder farmers having the knowledge. Yes, there's scientific knowledge. There's what science tells us about agriculture, but again, there's traditions. There's what farmers have been doing for decades. So my question is, you've traveled many countries. You've graduated college. What has been your experience in terms of we young people trying to communicate these scientific materials, scientific principles to these local farmers? Do they listen to us? Do we listen to them when they try to communicate to us what they have been doing for decades and decades?
Oh wow, yeah, thank you so much for the for the wonderful question. So what I saw is like, so I get a chance to work in Rwanda, traveled to all of the districts in Rwanda, working with the farmers because I was working in communication, and then we were bringing trainings, finance through Agritera to the farmers, and we also were, trying to help farmers to move forward. And then also I came to the US, which is totally different. Like agriculture in the US and agriculture in Rwanda is totally different. So in Rwanda, we have those people supporting like farmers, supporting small scale farmers move forward. So in the US, there's no NGO. Farmers are supporting the institution and the researchers and the universities, which is totally different. So yeah, I will answer that question in two ways, focusing on Rwanda and US. So in Rwanda, sometimes when we were bringing some trainings, farmers were saying, we know you spend a lot of times in the office of Kigali, trying to craft some of those trainings. But why do you think this can work? So one of the challenge was like, in order to prepare those trainings, we had to sit with the farmers, listen to them so that we can design things that can work for them. Because if we don't listen to the farmers, it is one of the challenge that we will face. Because imagine you are sitting in the office designing water conservation for the farmers in Nyagatare, for example. So you don't know Nyagatare, but maybe you have like those research, you have the data and everything. So the farmers will say, I'm not going to use this kind of techniques. I have been using these techniques for 20 years. It has been working. So I'm okay using these kind of trainings. But also in Rwanda, because we NGO and the government invest a lot of money, it is easier for them, for the farmers to adopt what the government NGO are bringing to the farmers. So coming back to US. So in the US, if you want to do research, if you want to bring new technology to the farmers, you will go and present to the farmers. The farmers will go and use the technologies, and then they will give you feedback to move forward to another farmers. So which is totally different. So what I saw is like in those two scenario, we need to listen to the farmers to run their experience, their previous experience and their techniques, and then to improve what they have been doing. By now I'm working into AI, artificial intelligence for the farmers in Nebraska, and we use a lot of drones and robot and sensors, and they have like an amazing technologies. But most of the farmers are hesitating to use those kind of technologies because they think it doesn't make sense for them. Because if those technologies, if those knowledge cannot increase return on investment, increase money, increase profit, it will not make sense for the farmers to use them. So I think that we need to, first of all, listen to the farmers and improve what they have been doing for the 20 years, the 30 years, 40 years. Yeah.
Mm. Thank you, Jean-Claude. And Ruth, if I may move to you so that we can hear your experience from Kenya. I know you have worked closely with farmers and agriculture professionals over many years. So there is some challenges that Jean-Claude was mentioning. And in your experience, do you think the biggest challenges is really around the technology gap, or it's about the communication gap? How is that information or technology or new innovation is communicated to the farmers, but also the public?
Mhm. Thank you, Diane. I am of the opinion, and I'm indeed heavily convinced that the gap is not in technology, because technology is not new. Technologies have been there since time immemorial. The new technology of the 15th century was new in 15th century. The new technologies that we are getting now for drones is a new technology. This technology has always been there, has always been ongoing. So the gap is not on technology. The gap is on how do we synthesize that information. We synthesize that information and we take it now to the level, to the ground. I think one of the major challenges in this particular instance is that maybe some of the technologies that we do, or the technologies that we bring about, we do not sit and explain, or we do not take our time to explain to them in a language or in a manner that the end user will understand. Like, for instance, let's take for an example, say maybe a soil scientist and a smallholder farmer. A soil scientist they would come maybe say to a farmer and is convincing the farmer to take a soil test, because if your soil is too acidic or is too alkaline, it will not be able to produce what it is that you want to produce. That farmer already knows how to test their soil because they've been with that soil for the longest time. They already know how to test their soil. They already know, if my soil is too acidic, this is what I'm going to apply. So you see, the role of the soil scientist here then is to co-create with this farmer, is to sit and do co-working with the farmer. Here comes the scientist with the science, and here comes the farmer with the local science, or with the local knowledge of doing soil science. So it is a question of co-working, it's a question of co-creating, because here we come armed with science and research and published works, and here comes the farmer with years and years of proof that what they have works. So all of us, the actors, need to sit at a level table. Is it the government, the farmers, the extensionists, the scientists? All of us sit at a table and we say, let us co-create for the benefit of man and for the benefit of development. So that is where now communication now breaks down because as scientists, we use heavy report technical language that may not be as, even amongst ourselves, we may not be able to assimilate it. And here comes the farmer, and the farmer is looking at, oh my goodness, I cannot even understand what the scientific language that the scientist is using. So that one is not for me. And they go on, they go away with the knowledge that as scientists, we would want to incorporate into our journals. Like I would say, here in Kenya, there is how we deal with our pests. Like where I am currently in Kilimambogo, the endemic pest is weevil for maize, which is one of our staple food. Our farmers have been using what do you call it, wood ash, to treat to get rid of all the weevils. So you see there, we would want to do a co-creation, say maybe with farmers from Jean Claude's uh, area or village. But if we use such heavy technical words, we are alienating the we are alienating those for those whom we study. So for me, it is how that message is brought about, how that message is explained, and to whom it is being, published and explained.
Mm.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Ruth. And I do agree with you. How we package and how we brand the information that we want to pass on to the public really matters or contributes highly on how people take action. And I'm going to move to Jean-Claude. I know you have built your career making agriculture engaging through digital media. I know you started as an agriculture influencer, but today you moved on to another role of agriculture communication specialist, if I may put that way. Looking back, what story or campaign made you realize that storytelling can genuinely influence people's attitude towards agriculture?
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. So, for me, I get a chance to, as you said, to use social media and work in communication. And now I'm working into the research, which is very, very, very interesting because it's an opportunity to work in those areas. Because when you see social media and people, they post agriculture communication, we must tell the story of the farmers, we must communicate to the farmers. And as a researchers, we must do a research that makes sense for the farmers. So yeah, for me, looking back, I cannot say it was not like, one Raja campaign. So it was some of the response that I received while sharing some of my agriculture journey online over the social media. Because I started to use social media in 2021, it was like post-COVID, and most of activities were online, and I started to use social media platforms. I use X, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and I try to use my platform intentionally to communicate about agriculture. So I started to share some of the farmer stories, the opportunities around agriculture, some of agriculture technologies that we can use in Africa, because most of the times people are not interested to, hear more about those kind of information. So when I started, I thought that I was just sharing the information, but I get a chance to get some of the message from the young people contacting me, trying to understand how they can, let's say, grow maize, how they can raise chicken, how they can raise like two pigs, those kind of stuffs. And some of the young people wanted to know how they can do, let's say, hydroponic agriculture entrepreneurship, and also about the scholarship opportunities. So, and some of them, they say that they want to consider doing agriculture because agriculture is more of, technology is more of the agriculture value chain. Because when they think about agriculture, they were thinking about, preparing the land, growing. They didn't think about food processing. They didn't think about technologies, engineering about it. So yeah, for me, those response show me that people don't always, reject agriculture itself. Sometimes they don't have the information to take a leap of faith in agriculture. So in that sense, I say that, okay, maybe if I create a business that could make more sense. So I was able to, register my business, Edgy Right, and then I have been working with young people. Most of them are, in Rwanda. We have been into digital extension services, trying to communicate agriculture to the public. And we have been able to work with Ministry of Agriculture, FAO Rwanda, and the other organization in Rwanda. So in that sense, I think that, and also when you see those young people, they are not communicating agriculture. They are also doing agriculture in their own field. We have some of the veterinaries, food processors. We have people who are involved in crop production. And I think that that's one, gave me one of the best ways, the impact of storytelling, the impact of communication around agriculture. So I think that it was not like one campaign or two campaign, but it was a mixed experience for the past four years that I have been into this space of ag communication.
Mm. Thank you, Jean-Claude. I do resonate with you. I do agree with you. I remember when I used to be part of the team that was doing agriculture influencing. And one thing I really remember that I loved about it, even you yourself, you could learn many things of what can be done on the value chain that is happening in agriculture. And agriculture is really cool. It's just that the people are not yet informed of the value chain. And let me welcome Robert before I move on to another question.
Yeah, sorry, Diane. I think this is an interesting conversation, and I have to jump in. Jean-Claude, this is the downside of having a conversation with someone who knows you. Um,
Mhm.
I'm going to ask a personal question. In your introduction, you showed us where you grew up, and it's a farmland, of course, and you got introduced to agriculture on an early stage. But I know you. I know when we went to Rika, you had how many scholarships? I lost the count. And in your introduction, you mentioned that growing up, you're like, I cannot do this farm work, carrying manure. I'm done. If I get any chance going to medicine or any other career, I'll take on that career. What did you see specifically in Rika or anywhere else that made you say that agriculture is going to be your career? What's the story like? And maybe to Ruth, um, I have to ask if you grew up on a farm, or what was your soul moment? When were you introduced to agriculture? What's the story like?
Okay, yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so this is no, it is not the downside, because it is an opportunity for me to share my story because yeah, as I said, I grew up in the farming communities, the small scale farmers growing in small scale. When I say small scale, it's like less than zero point 0.4 hectares of land. It's like less than 1 acre. So it's like nothing, you know what I mean? So and then so we were doing a lot of manual work and carrying manure and trying to do everything by hand, which is the thing that young people hate. So for me, when I went to high school, I said that enough is enough. Enough is enough. I don't want to do this kind of activities again. So I said that let me do and focus on science. So I was studying physics, chemistry, and biology, and then I was good. I get a chance to be good in those courses. And after finishing high school, I was admitted to study medicine, and medicine in our country is very very competitive. You need to do some interview to get the medicine, and I get also some of other scholarship, but we have a gap here in my country in Rwanda, so you have to spend gap year doing some of the other things. So I spent my gap year teaching chemistry in high school in the senior six, and in that sense, I was also in charge of the farms of that high school, and that high school is in my hometown, and I get a chance to also move around the neighbors and see what is happening, and I think that gap year gave me a chance to think twice, to think again, to think about how I was raised in that community, and the challenge that people see in that community. Because I saw like my neighbors, they were having the same problems, they were having the same challenge. And what I can say is like the farmers are the most of the people who have like high hopes. They will go and say next season is going to be great, next season is going to be great. So in that sense, I say that yeah, if I go to medicine, yes, I'm going to make an impact. I'm going to, contribute to the health of my country. But when I go into agriculture as young people, in that sense, I can maybe have a contribution that can put food on the table for many people, but also inspiring the other young people. Because when you see agriculture in Africa, in East Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, people are doing agriculture at the old and they are using traditional methods. So I say that if I go into agriculture, we have a contribution in the sense that I can bring more change, attract more young people to be involved in agriculture. And yeah, when I went to Rica, it was an amazing because, as I said, we had a lot of experience running education, learning by doing. I have been exposed to almost everything around agriculture at Rica. And then also traveling to more than 10 countries, and learning from people from different countries because of agriculture, because of social media, because of eye communication. That also gave me different perception, that also led me to say that okay, let me go to US, because US is one of the global leader in agriculture, and when you came here we get more perspectives. And then I say that let me go to the US, and then when I get those kind of knowledge and the skills, I can come back to Rwanda, to Africa, to bring more change and to bring more knowledge around the agriculture sector. Yeah.
Robert, I think you're muted. Yeah.
Yeah, I was calling Ruth to share her moment.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. But I too, just like Jean-Claude, have been brought up in a rural setting. Uh, just like just like in Rwanda, our land here is also very small. We grew up in less than an acre of land. Our parents had 5 children and one income from our dad, and our mom was majorly in agriculture. We used to eat the most wholesome foods ever. The bananas were just the best. The milk from our cows. And the excess is what now was being sold. So my interaction with agriculture started from a long time ago, from when I was young. But of course, just like Jean-Claude, I never wanted to go into agriculture because it was such a labor-intensive activity. I remember once we were young, quite young children, and we had some coffee bushes. And our grandmother would be waiting for us to come from primary school in the early evening, about 3 or 4 o'clock. And she would have a whole basket of cow manure. And she tells us, take it to the farm. The farm is about 2 kilometers away. Go and work on the coffee bushes. And it was such hard, laborious work. So I never wanted to do anything to do with agriculture. And I was like, when I grow up, I'm not going to do this. It didn't seem like it would give me any good things or any glad tidings. So when I cleared high school, I went on to do development communication. Little did I know my development communication would lead me into agriculture, because since I graduated, I've been working in the agricultural realm, 100% in the agricultural realm, in the dairy subsector, then now in curriculum implementation in agriculture. And you see, just like Jean-Claude has said, it is about how as we mature and as we get to see things a fresh new light, we get to understand that if it wasn't for the instilling of hard work and the resilience of our parents, like my mom would say, whether or not it rains, she has to go to the farm because that is where she's getting her income from. That is where her children will be eating from. So if it wasn't for the resilience of the farmer and all the farmers all over the world, If it wasn't for the resilience of the farmers, we wouldn't be here. So it turned out now being quite a fun and uh, yes, I would say quite a fun and challenging industry to be in, and majorly to work with the young people. Because you see, the mindset of the young me back then is still the same mindset that time and time again we are told that the youth are, that the youth have. But as we can see, we were once young people, me talking about myself, I was once a young person and now I'm in agriculture. And we can see how agriculture has the potential to change, the potential to just bring about rapid rural development. If it isn't for rural development, then what is it that we are working for? So my background in as small scale farmers, especially not just small scale, but subsistence farmers. We grow that what we eat, and the small excess that is left is what we sell, has shaped my perspectives on involvement, on resilience, on co-creation, and on bringing about development through agriculture.
Mm.
Yes.
And Ruth, while I'm still with you, while you were talking about resilience, and I want to ask you, for many sustainable farming practices require farmers to change the habits that have been following for many years, like you just shared with us, your experience with your parents at the younger age, you know,
Mhm.
changing them, telling them to change the system they are using in agriculture is not an easy job. But I
Mhm.
know you as an agriculture communication specialist, what would you communicate? How would you communicate the change in a way that builds trust rather than resistance with farmers? Is there a way
Mhm.
you can package it that would make a difference from what is being done today?
Yes, yes, there is. Let me talk about the kind of agriculture, which is more or less the sustainable ecological farming. That is what I said we teach it. Some others would call it organic farming. There are so many names
Mm,
for that kind of agriculture. The sustainable ecological agriculture is rooted in several pillars. One of the pillars is cultural acceptability. Another pillar is environmental stewardship. Another one is on health, and another one is economic viability and social justice. When we go and talk to the youth or to this farmer or to these multitudes of people, it would be wrong for us as the learned people and as the scientists to go to them and tell them what they are doing wrong. That is completely wrong. And that is what will bring about the resistance. That is what will negate the change that has already taken place. What we need to do is you remember when we said in the beginning, at the beginning of this conversation, it's about co-creation. It is about conversations, one on one. We are talking with all these people, and not just the farmers. It is everybody in the entire value chain of agriculture. So when we go in with the notion that these farmers are doing it wrong, and us as the scientists are the ones who know how to do it better, we are setting the stage for failure, and spectacular failure at that. We would want to look at it, we would want to go into the communities or into the people that we are working with so that we can do the co-creation of that knowledge. They already know what they were doing. If it wasn't working, and by the way, as we are talking, we know the resilience of farmers. They are the ones who sit down with a pen and
mm,
paper and talk about last season of rain, we received 10 millimeters of rain. The previous season, we received 20. The previous, we received this much. So as it is going now, we are looking at ourselves receiving 50, 60 millimeters of rain, just an example. So because this is what has been going on, this is what I'm going to plant. They are the ones who change and evolve with the times. So we cannot go in with the notion that the farmers do not know, or that the youth do not know what they want. That is
mhm,
wrong. Now, for us to be able to have a mindset change, we need to put into consideration those pillars that I've talked about, because then, as we put down the message, it will be acceptable to those to our audience or to the segment that we are looking at. We cannot go and tell the youth, we know you youth do not like agriculture. That is not true. They love agriculture, only that they do not want, maybe they do not want to go carrying the heavy gunny sacks of manure, but they have the capacity to use, to incorporate AI into agriculture. They are the ones who would be able to tell us, we are expecting floods. Like Jean Claude, you said as we were beginning that we are having floods in Rwanda. We're having cases of floods in Rwanda. With the inclusion of AI, they're able to do predictive weather reporting, and we would know there is heavy rain coming. So us as fish farmers, let us work with the heavy rains that are coming, or let us harvest our water. So it is a question of knowing how to integrate the knowledge with the segment. They know everything. Ours is just a conduit of passing information. Yes.
How do we integrate the information, the segment for towards one goal? And before I move on to the audience for questions, I want to ask my last question to you, Jean-Claude, as someone who comes from the background of social media and content creation. In your opinion, what do you think are some of the stories that African agriculture is missing, mainly in the media sector, but also if you could come around on how do you create agriculture content that captures attention without compromising also the accuracy of itself?
Okay, yeah, thank you so much, Diane, and thank you so much, Ruth, for the wonderful, insight. It's very, very interesting, to be honest. So for me, regarding your question, Diane, I think that things which are missing for our media today is about how we communicate agriculture. Because you see, agriculture is being communicated in two extremes. One story will focus on crisis, flood, poverty, climate change, and other we present technology as something which is, magical, which can solve every challenge. So by nowadays, we are into the age of AI, machine learning, deep learning, which is very, very, very interesting conversation. So what I saw here is like AI is bringing a lot of solution for the farmers, especially in the US, in Western countries. But when you see in Africa, you cannot go and say AI is going to bring this kind of solution. You need to consider many, many things because as someone who is working into AI, I think that we have like a language barriers where most of the farmers don't use English and those AI tools are using English. And sometimes they can use English, but there is no internet, there's no infrastructure. So I think that the stories between those two extreme, the extreme of poverty and technologies and how technology can be used is missing. The like those stories between all of those kind of stuffs. Because I think that for us, we need the stories about the farmers who are experimenting, adapting, and solving problems with the resource available to them. For example, if there's too much rain, we need to share the stories of the farmers who are harvesting rain. So we need to share the stories from maybe the women farmers who are working together as cooperatives, the story of young entrepreneurs who are processing tomato into tomato paste. Those are the stories that we need to share, especially from Africa. And also like some of the professors bring some of the research into, let's say in Nairobi, Kenya, or in Kigali, Rwanda. And also like we need to also understand that some of the technologies, innovation coming, they cannot solve every problems farmers face. We also need to hear those kind of reality, and we need to try to understand that kind of realities, because if we bring the stories of technologies as the solution to all of the problems, we are lagging behind. So for me, I think that we also need to understand the traditional knowledge of the farmers, and then also try to communicate those traditional knowledge to the communities, share those knowledge around the community so that the people can really understand and use those kind of knowledge. Yeah.
Mhm. And definitely, Jean-Claude, I do agree with you. There's so many incredible stories that we can share of what is happening in agriculture. And I've seen among our audience, I have seen some of the agriculture content creators, and probably if they'll agree with me, they will sometime get to unmute themselves and share with us the experience. But I see from the audience, we have the natural Victor. If you can mute yourself and ask your question or compliment, you're welcome. The floor is yours. Let's try also to be as brief as we can, since time is not on our side here. Yes, Victor, you're welcome.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm audible.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, okay. All right, thank you so much. So I'm Tanatko Victor Ndoro from Zimbabwe, Africa. So I'm one of the funny, one of the people that actually follow John Claude. He has been sharing so much experience in terms of high technology, in terms of agriculture, which is actually inspiring a lot of young people like myself, because I'm one of the people who is also into agricultural sector here in Zim, leading one of the companies which is into banana production, farming bananas. And also I've seen John sharing some innovations in regard with banana production in terms of mechanization, value addition uh, uh, of those leaves for bananas, uh, bells, and so forth. So that kind of mechanism is truly inspiring. So we need that type of technology into our African countries. Something that if you can help us is young people, so that we can actually take this initiative to to a better place. So thank you so much. So my question is in regard with in terms of communication. One thing that I've seen, especially looking at these successful people in the agricultural sector, at some point they are not sharing this information, because I really believe there are a lot of people that are doing quite well that have been in this industry for quite some time. But in terms of knowledge sharing to the young people, they don't do that. Something that is actually lagging us is many young people, because of they don't have um, proper knowledge in terms of proper structures that are actually being needed to put in place in terms of running a successful business of agriculture. So in the way of trying to motivate these young people, we need to have more like influencers. That if I look at John is more like my is more like my role model to me, because I look at him, seeing him what he's actually doing. So something that I've seen even with corporate company like what I'm working here, company that I'm actually working, they don't want for you to take pictures of their crop, take videos of their crop. It's confidential. So it's something that then you look at how many people that are actually involved in growing these bananas. There are very few people that are actually taking that action. Not even a young person less than 40, or I can say, who is farming bananas. So it's something that I actually look at in terms of communication. We need to actually try to probably tell these people who have been in the industry to remove that mindset of actually saying that if I share this knowledge to this young person, probably is going to take my market or is going to take my potential customers, which is something that is very, very important. So, in regard with in terms of communication, but young people, they don't have someone whom they look at saying that one day I need to be like this person. One day we need to be like this person. So probably as a contributory, what I can safely say is we need to actually, as Africans, I know we have vast amount of land in terms of farming. We need as Africans to start to actually prioritize agriculture is a priority in terms of our subjects. I know here in Zim we say that maths and English, these are two important subjects that are actually needed because there is ordinary level. So some
Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Victor. I'm sorry. I think we also experienced some technical internet problems, but
talking about
we have had your point, and I thank you so much for emphasizing on encouraging agriculture content creators so as we can put out so many storytelling of what is happening in agriculture so as to inspire but also to show what is possible even in some other countries where technology is not yet there. So if I can move on to another question in the chat box we have, and then I think it's directed to you, Ruth, from Philemon, was asking if you do provide training on 3 principles of sustainable agriculture, and how important is indigenous knowledge to sustainable agriculture.
Thank you. Thank you, Diane. What Tanato has said is, has said is quite, yes, Tanato has said is quite right. And the challenge, if I were to just talk about that first before I go to Tobias, the challenge here is on how we package the information or how we package agriculture. Remember, we said from the beginning that agriculture, even in most cases, has been seen as a form of punishment. So we change the mindset, we change the views, we will change agriculture. And there are so many people who are doing very well. Well, what Victor has said is true. Those people who are doing well need to come up and show the others, especially the young people and the women, that they need to, that agriculture can actually bring about change in our lives and in our situations, and more on us, especially on us, the ones who are in the agriculture realm. It is upon us to package and transform how agriculture is seen. So that way, yes, that is indeed knowledge sharing, and how we package agriculture. Now, to go to Tobias, yes, we provide training at the College of Sustainable Agriculture for Eastern Africa. We provide a 2.5 year the course on sustainable ecological agriculture. Among the many lessons that we learn, or the units that we learn, is on how to do sustainable agriculture, and sustainable agriculture that is in keeping with the times that we are at. So yes, we do train on all the principles, practices, and pillars of sustainable ecological agriculture. Some of those ones that I mentioned, such as an environmental stewardness, social justice, cultural, cultural caring, and all that. And we also train on here. I can see you've asked about soil disturbance, permanent soil cover, and crop diversification. Some of the units that we train there are on crop production, livestock production, seed production. So all of those ones are included. Additionally, we have business courses in that in the sustainable ecological agriculture. And this one, Jean Claude, you mentioned about. We have business courses such as business planning, communication skills. It's heavy. It is heavily taught, and we also train on life skills. So as you can see, sustainable ecological agriculture, the certificate on sustainable ecological agriculture is all rounded. And at the end of the day, it is going to bring about a well-rounded graduate who is able to get into the different value chains of agriculture should they wish to become an extension officer. They can be extension officers. If they wish to become a practitioner in value addition or in food production, whatever it is that they want to be, the craft certificate in sustainable ecological agriculture is their getaway to opportunities in agribusiness. So I hope I have answered the question on what we train in sustainable ecological agriculture at the College of Sustainable Agriculture for Eastern Africa. Yes, back to you.
And Yes, and Ruth, there was a sub-question to that, which is about how important is indigenous knowledge to sustainable agriculture.
Oh, yes, yes. I almost forgot about that one. We can't be here if we did not have indigenous knowledge. Because, as we always keep on saying, and I think our parents and our grandmothers always used to tell us that there's nothing new under the sun. Everything that can be done has been done and will be done. So we are only building on to the knowledge that has come out from our ancestors and the ones that have come out from those ones who are before us. In fact, they crawled so that we can walk, and we are walking so that our generations can fly. So they can only fly on the knowledge that we are giving. So indigenous knowledge is very important indeed. If you look at the scientific world, it builds on indigenous knowledge. Like for instance, we can take the example of, say, maybe preservation of food preservation. I don't know whether you do that in Rwanda, where you have those kitchens that use firewood. You would see that our grandmothers used to put the maize above the fireplace, and the maize would be dried using the smoke. It is the same technology that has been improved to do seed preservation. So as you can see, indigenous knowledge will always be there. Another thing, the indigenous knowledge of 2026, or the new knowledge of 2026 will be indigenous knowledge of 2050. So we cannot talk about new knowledge without talking about the knowledge that we found. We can never reinvent the wheel, but we always improve. So indigenous knowledge, I would say we need to pay closer and closer attention to indigenous knowledge to grow new knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And if I may receive the last two questions, and which goes to Jean-Claude. There's one question from Emmanuel was asking about the impact of storytelling to agriculture, about one knowing that the cultural perspective. But how do you tell a story to someone believing in traditional farming practices like monoculture to adopt to conservation agriculture practices by the time they do not have extra influencers? So I think they are trying to ask about how do you package that message? How do you create that content, either in terms of caption or something like that? If you can give them a tip. But also that will go again with another question from our director, Johan Kruger, was asking any advice on using communication to increase the value of nature-friendly and organic products and improving profitability for farmers. We can't hear you, Jean-Claude.
Okay, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah, thank you so much for the wonderful question. And starting from the question number one, I think that when it comes to the community, the traditional community, we need to first of all understand why they trust this kind of practice more than others, why farmers trust monocropping instead of trying to convince them that conservation agriculture is very important, because they have been doing this kind of techniques practice for 20 years, for 10 years, and we need to understand first of all why they are using monocropping over conservation agriculture. Because for me, I think that when it comes to influencers, social media influencers, I don't think that we as people who use social media need to go and convince farmers. We need to run from farmers, because the farmers we trust are the farmers doing conservation agriculture rather than anyone, because they need to see what is happening in practice. So for me, if I wanna convince the farmers to do conservation agriculture over monocropping, I will try to find the other farmers doing conservation agriculture who have improved the soil, who have conserved the water, who have decreased the input costs, and then I will share that story, because farmers are likely to believe the fellow farmers more than me because they think that these young people didn't know what he's talking about. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's better to show farmers what have been, working in the field, and then the farmers were able to maybe try once and see if they see that it can work, they will try in the whole field. So in that sense, we can learn from the farmers as influencers, and then we can use the story of other successful farmers to convince other farmers, to adopt different kind of techniques. Yeah. The question in number two was about the advice on using communication
To
to.
increase the value of nature-friendly and organic products and improving profitability for farmers.
Yeah, that is super, super wonderful question. So for me, I think that communication should not only promote the product. So what I saw is like most of the times we don't need to communicate about the product, but we need to tell the story behind the product because farmers are likely to believe in the story behind the fertilizer, the principle, the practice more than the practice itself. And I can also answer this question as like someone who has been into the business because when the farmers, like when the consumers, the customers understand how like the nature friendly and organic product protected the soil, biodiversity, water, and the farmers' livelihood, they will be able to adopt the values and pay the price for those kind of nature friendly product. And then also like the farmers need to really understand that if you use this kind of product, are we going to get good return on investment? For example, I when I was in Rwanda, I saw that most of the farmers were growing organic product because there was a market in the Netherlands, UK, and other countries in Europe, and they were getting premium price for those products. So if the farmers can use nature-friendly product to grow, let's say, organic products to sell to to the international market with the premium price, they are going to adopt those kind of product. And then also we also need to first of all try those nature-friendly products to one farmer, and then if that farmers is successful, we can use that farmer as a role model to other farmers to use those kind of nature-friendly product. Yeah.
Mhm. I loved Jean-Claude on the point you mentioned about demo farms, where a farmer gets to learn from the fellow farmer. And I think we have an incredible story in Rwanda of farmers who have been trying to learn about how to practice conservation agriculture by using demo farms, and has really worked because a farmer can learn from a neighboring farm rather than a US stranger from nowhere. Just because you're scientists, you can't just come and think that they're going to agree to whatever you're saying. But now coming to the second question, Ruth, what's your perspective about communication and the marketing part of agriculture products to boost the profitability of what farmers are growing? What's your perspective about that? The same question that Jean-Claude lastly was answering.
All right, thank you, thank you, thank you, Diane. I want to concur with what Jean-Claude has said. You see, at the end of the day, we look at farming as a business. It is an enterprise, and an enterprise will need to give you a return on that investment. So, as much as you work on your farm, you also have to work with the client in mind. Or who is this that you're thinking of? Who is your segment that you're thinking about? What do they want? What are they looking for? And you position and package your product to speak to them. Like I can see most of the Kenyan middle class now, they are all about the health benefits. They are all about we need to reduce the cholesterol and our fats, we need to eat more healthy food, more organic food, and the farmer is able to produce that. You produce that, you've already hit the jackpot. You are going to make money on your pocket, and you're going to make development in your area. So in this case, I would look at the farmer getting even more business training, in as much as they know, and this one they know a lot. They know how to farm because that's what they've been doing. So do they have the business component or the entrepreneurial component as they're doing farming? Do they go and do farming, say like all of us, we plant cabbages at the same time, or do we know when to pace so that when the market is ready for my produce, I bring it about and I bring, of course, a fair price, and I get a premium price for that. If I am packaging, say maybe products, say maybe skincare products, how am I packaging my skincare products? How am I packaging my milk? Who am I looking at? And I package directly to that person. So I would say that what us as farmers and as people in the agricultural industry should do is to look at what our client requires. That what our client requires, we give our client and we package it to interest them. Then we are all going to be happy because we will have, as consumers, we will have what we want. And as farmers, we will have sold our produce to the market at good prices. Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to everyone. And I want to thank Roland for a great message in the chat box appreciating what the conversation, the discussion we are having. And he really emphasized on the accuracy of information that influencers, communicators put out. But I think it all goes hand in hand. But he asked one question to you, Ruth, about do you believe that agriculture perspective using farmer field schools or demo plots, like we were saying in a few minutes, can communicate much better than social media, given the fact that the context of agriculture farmers would easily learn from their neighbors?
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you for that question. Yes, of course, if someone like Jean-Claude had a farm of their own and they had a demo plot, of course it would provide a different perspective. However, as much as we would want that one to happen, it possibly could not be true. And that is why we said at the beginning that farming does not only have to occur on the farm. It can occur in other realms and other spaces. Now, in the case of of Jean-Claude, his work is to package that message. See what Jean-Claude you told us earlier is you have seen for a fact that when you package that message from a practicing farmer, the other farmer, the neighboring farmer, will believe that message from that practicing farmer. So here, John Claudia has taken technology to a higher level so that the communication or how we reach to the other farmers and indeed to even the consumers is on a grander level. So I believe that a combination of both would be good. But here we are bringing about someone who is farming and someone who is packaging this information. So both would work very well. And remember what we said in the beginning, that we are working with co-creation and co-option and co-partnering. If you do not have a farm, and here I am, I have all these AI and I have all these technologies, then we partner with these farmers who are doing very well, and I'm bridging that gap between the farmer and farmer to farmer or farmer to consumer. So to answer your question, of course, for influencers, they would also need to have proper perspective so that when they are packaging the message, it goes as it is meant to be packaged. It is clear, concise, and to the point. So both would work well to have perspective. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ruth. And we are closing now. We are towards the end of our session, and I will apologize for delaying to more than 30 minutes to more than 1 hour. We expected to finish. But as our parting questions that I want to ask each of you, to you, Ruth, if you had 1 minute to convince a young African to consider agriculture as a career, what story would you tell them, or how would you communicate to them that way you grab their attention? And then to Jean-Claude, as an agriculture influencer, as a content creator in agriculture sector, what are some of the gaps that you think fellow influencers and content creators in agriculture some of the gaps of things that you need to change. That way we can you can influence, or you can put the right word, make impact using the storytelling of what is happening in agriculture.
Thank you, Diane. Let me start. How would I package agriculture to the young ones, or
Yes.
to, you know, that is quite an interesting question, and a very good one, because day in, day out, for the last 4 years, I've been working to convince young farmers to actually go out and be the young farmers that they are supposed to be. I would tell them that the past, the present, and the future is agriculture. It can never be anything else. It is agriculture, and it is in the many forms of agriculture. I would tell them that the world, and indeed the entire planet, rests on their hands, because they are the ones who are going to be talking about climate smart agriculture. They are the ones who are talking about agripreneurship. They are the ones who are going to be bringing about industries. They are the ones that are going to change the lives of those ones who come after them. I would convince them by telling them that agriculture is the most accommodating of all industries in the world. It accommodates the young, the older generation, the ones who are not yet born. It is all that accommodating. I would also tell them that if they need to learn resilience, resilience can only be found in agriculture. And it can only be found in the kind of agriculture that is conservation agriculture, or organic agriculture, or sustainable ecological agriculture, that will make sure that our planet lives and lives on for many, many, many years to come. So I would tell them, if they need to effect change in the world, they better do it in agriculture. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you, Ruth. Like Ruth just emphasized, if you want to create change, start with the agriculture sector. And to you, Jean-Claude, what would you tell the fellow agriculture influencer? What should they improve to in the gap of the content creation that you're making?
Yeah. Thank you so much for the wonderful question. And then also trying to talk about what Roland said. Most of the times, the influencers are, bring some of information which is not true, because they want to get views. They want to make money out of those views, which is very bad for the image of agriculture. So I think that for the influencers, we need to present, communicate fact-based, agriculture. We need to make sure that we can transfer the knowledge from farming into the broader community, which have a fact which can also make sense for those farmers. And now, so what we also need is like those influencers who went to study agriculture. For example, if we can have like some students from Rika, from University of Rwanda, University of Nairobi, and the other universities, which are doing those kind of agriculture. And then, because those influencers, we know what is happening in the field, and then also they can transform those technical jargon that farmers don't understand into simple information that farmers can use. And we also need to have some of the influencers who are doing agriculture in their field. So I get a chance to have like a small round when I was in Rwanda. I was doing farming so that I can test which the idea that I'm sharing to the broader communities, is it practical in the real field? So we need people who went into animal production, talking about animal production, maybe raising, let's say, 2 goats or 2 pigs or 1 cow, so that they can share their experience. And now what I saw is like we have some of those young people who are doing agriculture, who are sharing their journey. You will see some of young people waking up in the morning, milking the cow and having some of the challenge, vaccinating the cow, everything. So we need those kind of influencers. This is where farmers will trust us as influencers, and then also we will be able to work with the farmers to bring change, to bring transformation in agriculture sector.
Thank you so much, Jean-Claude. And thank you, Ruth, for sharing your perspective and your experience, and for giving us a wonderful conversation. And I must remind everyone in the audience, this was recorded and will be uploaded on social media platforms. That way we can get to rewatch it again whenever you want. But before I move on, I want to welcome Robert, my co-host, who also happened to be a farmer, a green pepper and yellow pepper farmer. And I hope you have made a decision to create social media platforms and share with us your story. Inspire us, inspire me, and the rest of the people.
This is actually being biting by your words. Earlier I said the downside of having a conversation with someone you know, and all of a sudden Diane is using she's using it in her own interest. But yeah, I love the conversation. It really it reminded me of so many reasons why I chose this career. Um, Sometimes ago, it wasn't even a career. When I went to Rika, I couldn't sit down and nail that it might be my parent, it might be my uncle or someone else, a friend of mine who is an elder. I couldn't sit him down and say I studying agriculture. I am looking towards being in the career of conservation agriculture. It wasn't making sense. But 6 years down, they come to me seeking advices. They come to me with all these ideas of how they can put to use their lands. It's really interesting how times have changed, and it's only getting started. Earlier I loved the elements that Ruth said when she talked about the fact that if it wasn't for the resilience of farmers, we wouldn't be here. I think it can be stressed enough. Um, we in Rika, we always used to say, anytime you sit down and eat, you have to thank a farmer. So, it, for a farmer to be credited for the life we have as of now, it hasn't been done enough. But I think it's upon us to give it life, give light to what they are doing, what we are doing, and attract more talents, young generation, our age mates, our younger siblings to join the movement as well, and take it from one stage to another. So yeah, I think this has been a very exciting session, and we will be having so many of these in future. And yeah, thank you, Ruth, thank you, Jean-Claude. We hope if we knock on your doors again, you will open for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. And before we close, we are inviting you again for more events we have tomorrow on invasive plant species. This is a series that is ongoing on for monthly and month, and there are some links that were shared in the chat box. Please take some time to join and register. We'll be happy to receive you again. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.